That's what's up next.
Welcome to People Over Politics. This is Josh Barnett. I'm running for U.S. Congress in District 7 here in Arizona. I'm trying not to laugh because we were laughing right before we came on here. And we got a lot to talk about tonight, and I'm going to get here with my co-host here tonight.
It's Chris Woolwine.
And Tom Hussey.
And, man, we were like, this is the craziest year in history of politics, or for the history of anything, for that matter. And we're just waiting on the aliens. That's what we're waiting on. And I'm pretty sure that's going to come out here soon, probably in the next 29 days up to the election. The aliens are here, so what are you going to do now? So anyways, man, we campaign-wise with me, we've been hitting the streets, dropping off flyers, knocking doors. I got a team going out this week, knocking doors, dropping off. We got about 5,000 flyers we're going to hit certain areas with, hitting those independents out there, letting them know that we have some common sense over here on this side. Vote for us this time, you know. And but you know, it's I had a very interesting conversation with a lady earlier. Her name's Dorothy. She lives on the south side of Phoenix, and she's probably one of the few true conservatives, I would say, on the south side of Phoenix. But I'm gonna read a quick little thing that she sent me initially, and why we had this conversation. She said, South Phoenix needs Republicans that will stand up for African Americans like myself. I should not have to have my 9-year-old daughter be in school in Tempe due to poor education and lack of safety where I live. 3 sex offender facilities with one right across the street of an elementary school. Foreign investors buying up homes and land and creating slumlord situations. Your district needs you to be strong to defeat Ruben Gallego. Where do you stand? Can I trust you to fight for the people like me, a single parent that does not get government food stamps, insurance, or other resources, and does not get child support, yet works hard to provide for my family? This is one of many I could show you, similar things that people have been reaching out, you know, especially in the last few weeks, as they know an election's coming up. They're probably looking into who we are right now. And it's crazy to me that when you look at Congressional District 7, it's been Democrat held since its inception. Like, it's never had a Republican win here. Now, only one Republican other than me has run here, or been crazy enough to run here, is what they say, in this district. So the conservative principles that work throughout the world, for that matter, let alone just the country, from economics to even social, how we look at things socially, are being heard for the first time in this district, probably maybe ever, for that matter. And Tatiana running in the state house in LD 27 there in South Phoenix, and Garland running for the state senate. Garland Shreves running for state senate in LD 27. So I've been with Tatiana from day one, really, with when she started running and I started running kind of at the same time. And so I've always known what she's pushing and what she believes in. And she's, much like myself, like any conservative, we're pro-life, we are school choice, and we are safe, we want safe communities, which means not defunding the police, along those lines. So, but I asked this lady, I said, why is it, and I ask everybody this, even though it's kind of rhetorical, I guess, but why is it that people continue voting for Democrat congressmen or state House and Senate, and they get the same result year after year, election after election, decade after decade, and you get the same result? And it's because they don't know any different. They think that this is all there is. They think, when the Republican Party gave up on this district, they gave up on telling people about conservatism, about what it is. And I can argue that some Republicans aren't any conservatives, for that matter, or even close, for that matter. But we are, so we're bringing a whole different concept and idea. Win or lose in this election, I've said this from day one, we have our foot strongly in the door for the future, and that's what it's all about, is that you're not going to win every election. Even the best lose, you know what I mean? And you got long-time senators right now in the Republican Party clawing and scratching to try to win. And this the head of the Senate Intel Committee, you know what I mean? Like, Lindsey Graham is scratching right now because they threw so much money into that race against him, like $70 million or something like that. So that's how important these seats are to these people. Now you got to think, who's putting this money in there and why is it so important to them? because there's a lot of money they're going to either win or lose, depending on who wins or loses. And these people are heavily invested, and that's what we call the DC bureaucracy, the deep state, the swamp. That's what it is, man. And until people figure it out, and I really believe until people are held accountable from the last election, I don't know if people will actually wake up and actually believe that there is a swamp or a deep state. But I call the bureaucracy of DC more the deep state swamp. But that's what it is. And they all take care of one another from both sides. And they all look out for one another. That's why no one's held accountable from either side. Because, oh man, if he's held accountable, well, he knows something about me. Or he knows something about one of my business dealings over and wherever. And it's just this nonstop circle of protecting one another to make money and for their own self-interest. Now, not for everybody, but for a lot of them. I'd say the vast majority is like that. So on my way here, I was thinking, we haven't had the Durham report come out. And I kept thinking, why? Like, why? This is critical. This is crucial for people to know before they vote again, which some have already casted votes. They casting votes for an election, and they don't even know what happened in the last election. They don't know. I mean, I know what happened. We all know what happened. But since no one's been truly held accountable, people on the left think it's all BS. They don't think it's real. They think it's all Republicans are just being, facetious and just, making stuff up to make us look bad and everything else. And it's extremely frustrating to me, like beyond words right now, frustrating. But then again, I thought, we don't need a report. Durham doesn't need to write us a report. He can just indict people, But what if that doesn't happen? What if there's no indictment and there's congressmen and senators calling for indictments every night? If you turn on Tucker, you turn on any conservative news, it doesn't matter, OAN, Newsmax, whatever you're watching, whatever show you're watching, people are calling for Comey to be arrested or indicted. People are calling for these people for the crimes they committed against. I mean, you can say crimes against humanity in some situations, but it's very frustrating that it hasn't happened, and they've had 4 years, almost 4 years to do this. And I think what's even more unfortunate is that people are voting for people in office, because I think there are some people, if they knew and they saw the truth, and what I mean by that is that they saw the truth, people actually being arrested for what's happened, they would believe that Obamagate is real. Oh man, it's real. But until that happens, they're going to think it's some right-wing fairy tale. And it's unfortunate to see people voting for people who we know are criminals or are associated like very closely with. And this coup attempt on the president, and not one, well, Kleinsmith, outside of Kleinsmith, who admitted to changing an email for Carter Page on a FISA, or with this FISA warrant, basically saying he did not work for the CIA when he worked for the CIA. And then Comey tried to play dumb and act like he didn't know anything about it. It's just crazy to me. I don't know. I could talk about this for an hour straight, probably just this alone. But what do you guys think on that? Like, what do you think about people voting now or already casted votes? Let's say if Durham comes out and indicts people next week, or let's say this Friday. He indicts people Friday. That seems to be the day that stuff goes down. He indicts people on Friday. Let's say 3 or 4 people go to Comey and some big McCabe and some of these bigger names that get indicted. Do you think these people that casted their votes, already, are like, I want my vote back. I'm changing my vote. They were right. These people are right. These independents out there that are voting maybe early, like, if I would have known this is actually literally true, I wouldn't have voted a certain way. Do you think that would change a lot of minds from an independent standpoint?
I don't really think there is a independent lock out there anymore, to tell you the truth. I think the days of independent voting is over. I think that in this particular election especially, people have made up their minds who they are going to vote for, and no matter what news you come out with for either candidate, damning or exciting, it's not going to sway anybody's vote. It's just simply not going to sway anybody's vote.
There's so much polarization on each side that you think the votes are locked in.
Especially now, in this day and age, it has gotten to the point where, yes, that everybody is on a side, and no matter what truth comes out, and that's the scariest part, is that some truth can be coming out, and you would think that normal, objective people would, see the truth, realize, change their minds if they were wrong. But that's just not the way it is anymore. Which is, I guess, the definition of polarization is that no matter what truth comes out, whether it helps you or hurts you, it's not going to change how you feel about your vote.
And I think the numbers back that up. I think a week ago I checked, and as of last Sunday, 650,000 people had already voted. And at the same point in the election in 2016, it had only been 10,000 people that had voted. Now that number's up to 2 million. 2 million people have already voted so far.
That frustrates the hell out of me, thinking that. Like, to think about 2 million people voted in this country, and we know there was literally a coup attempt on a president from 2016 with what they did at the Obamagate. No one's been held accountable. So the people that, there's a lot of people well, you know what? Yeah, we heard that, we heard this, but no one's been indicted, no one's been arrested, so I'm not going to believe it, right? And I kind of can't even argue against that, But if you really dove into it, you'd see clearly what happened. But until there's indictments, but that just frustrates the heck out of me,
I'm telling you right now that no matter what Durham comes out with, no matter how damning it is, if you think anybody's going to go down for this, if you think anybody's going to get indicted
Zero.
for this, you're crazy.
Zero.
Okay? Nobody went down.
Think about that. Think about how
in the
bad
crash
that
of
is.
2008 with that financial disaster, there were people that were responsible for that. Nobody was held accountable, and guess what? Same thing's going to happen.
And a few people
now.
that got arrested were a year in jail, and they were out, and they're probably in a country club prison or something.
Too big to fail.
Well, the cops and the criminals are also the same people right now.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
the
yeah,
same
literally.
people.
Literally. These are bad cops, man. The leaders of the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ, even the IRS was targeting the Tea Party. They were Lois Lerner was targeting people, targeting 501(c)(3)s and stuff. You know what I mean? And they were going after people because they didn't believe what they believed.
And this is really scary stuff because this is government agencies that are being weaponized against people.
This is USSR stuff.
Yeah, and if
You know
they
what I
can
mean?
do that to somebody like the President of the United States, they can do it to any average Joe they want to. Think of the power of the IRS.
Man.
If they want to audit you or if they think that you mispaid on you virtually have no power to fight that. You have virtually no power to fight that. Now, put that on a mass scale with the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, DEA, IRS, all these
All the
agencies
three-letter
have such
agencies.
power over your everyday life that you can't. There's absolutely no way the average citizen can fight back against something like that.
It's the lack of integrity at the top. We all know that probably 99% of the people that are in those agencies, if they had an opportunity, it could do something, they would. But when you had the top people telling you what to do, and if you don't, you're going to be fired. If you don't, you're going to be reprimanded in some way.
To be honest with you, Josh, I don't even believe it's just the top people. I think it's fully systemic, all the way through and through the FBI and the CIA and groups like that kind of work apart from the government and have that autonomy.
Yeah.
I think it's through and through.
Because they know what's
agencies.
going on.
Yeah, absolutely, they know what's going on.
Come on, these are smart
Through
people.
and through, those people know what kind of power they have, and they're not about to give it up if they don't have to. I mean, just this week, we're hearing that congressmen, the representatives of the people, are not even asking anymore. They're demanding classified documentation from these agencies, and they're being stonewalled.
And Haspel,
That cannot happen in
Gina
a free
Haspel
country.
is not allowing it to happen. Directly her, she is personally stepping in and not allowing that to happen. It's insane. And she was the one in London working for Mueller. Was it Mueller? Yeah, working for Mueller in London, or Brennan. No, Brennan. Working for the London branch or whatever they call it in the CIA. She was on working. Guess who came from London? Christopher Steele. Imagine that.
Well, I was watching a documentary today on the Miami chapter of the Proud Boys.
Yeah.
And it was
the Clayton Bigsby.
Yeah, the Cubans and Venezuelans.
Did you guys get my joke? Clayton Bigsby.
I got it, yeah. Well, yeah, right.
The white black
I got
supremacist.
it.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because they were on there talking about this, and they were saying that, and these were first generation Venezuelans. You know what I mean? And they were they were older people. They were like, listen, this is the exact stuff that happened in our country. They were like, censoring of the media, They were like, turning races against each other, turning the rich against the poor. They're like, this is exactly how this started in our country. Not being able to trust the so-called feds. And it's the same stuff, and I was watching them talk about it. They were talking passionately because they were like, we came here to get away from this, and now it's here,
So again, I always go back to my class that I teach, right? And we jumped forward ahead to World War II now. But in setting up World War II, you have to set up the politics that was happening in the world at the time. So what was in style was, you look at USSR after 1917, they went communist. You look at Germany, they went fascist. Italy went fascist. We had in Japan, they had an emperor. In Spain, they were having a civil war between communists and fascists. In the United States, we had a president going on his third term who would eventually win 4 terms in the United States. So that kind of political centralization of power was popular back in the 1920s, 1930s, post-World War I. So it's kind of cool that we're talking about this now, because I get to explain this to my students, exactly what you just said about the Venezuelans, how this is how it starts. This is what all of these leaders did and their parties did. This is what they implemented in their countries, and this is what it eventually leads to.
And every single country
In every
did the same
case, it's
thing.
the same exact blueprint. And I tell my students, because I just don't want it to be ancient history to them. I don't want to be like, okay, this is just notes about World War II. This happened, this happened, this happened. So I always try and take something from history and then pull it forward to contemporary current events of what's going on. So I try and use some kind of current event and say, okay, this happened in Germany or this happened in Italy. Okay, guys, here in the United States, so and so and so happened. Does this have any correlation? Does this look the same? What could possibly happen? So it gets the kids. It's a critical thinking activity, but it also, like I said, lets them know that.
Wait, you let your students think freely?
Yeah, well,
imagine, it's crazy. That is insane.
But yeah, that's
that's great. No, that's great. They're lucky to have a teacher like you, honestly, because as you know, that usually doesn't happen. That's not the case normally, and it's especially with history or civics, to force a student, forcing them to think on their own, and to look at history and learning from history's lessons is why I like history. I think I love history. I don't know, but it's not ancient history, and it's repeatedly. I tell people, like, Adele was with me, and we were out doing a little video shoot thing, and downtown by the Capitol, we're a little neighborhood there. And we saw these 4 people sitting on the porch. So Adele, he just starts talking to everybody. He's talking to this people. And they're like, Antifa, yeah, BLM. And I'm like, I was like, are they, in my head I'm thinking, are they just saying that to try to provoke me or provoke us in some way? Or do they really believe what they're saying? Because if they do, they're just truly ignorant. And I was like, I asked them, I go, so you guys support the burning of cities and everything? Oh, that's not happening. That's all right-wing BS. And Adele started laughing. Adele's like, I just got off the phone with my friend earlier today from Portland, who had to move out of Portland because he lived downtown and he's not putting up with it anymore. He goes, it is an absolute disaster. People are getting beat up, because they don't believe what they believe. It's literally brown shirt territory right now. And here's these people up here supporting. By the way, they're all 4 white people, supporting everything,
Yeah, right.
Which is the irony of it. You know what I mean? But but they were so just brazen in what they were saying, like, and they were like, oh yeah, we call Antifa, and I go ahead and call them. I'm not scared of a bunch of soy boys coming down here. We're like, me and Adele were just talking to ourselves. You know what I mean? We're like, really? Do you think we're actually, come on? But you can't even have a conversation with these people
because Antifa is just an idea. Remember?
Yeah, it's just an idea.
See what I'm saying? That's
their new lie.
Well, that's how
new lie.
That's how you poo-poo that issue right there. That's how you down.
Well, when you have
that's how you make it not.
You have
serious.
freaking Christopher Wray saying that it's an idea. Really? Is this for real? Like, he should be fired. He should have been fired 2 minutes after he said that. If I was Trump, I'd have been, get him out of here. He's done. Haspel, you're not gonna do your job. You're done. Like, that's why they hate Trump so much, because that's how he is. Like, if you're not, he's a business guy. If you're not doing a job, I'm gonna give you time. I'm gonna give you a chance. If you don't do the job, you're out of here. I'll find somebody who's gonna do the job. The problem is, I see they keep putting deep staters in positions of deep staters. Bring a true outsider and put Michael Flynn in charge of the FBI and see what happens.
But that's what he's saying. That's why it's systemic. is because it's like you can't just replace one person and change it. You replace one person and it's like everybody else is in the same boat anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
You need a true outsider
Yeah.
to come in and clean house. You know what I mean? And I don't mean like necessarily get fired. Being fired, it's kind of like the Catholic priest that molest 100 kids. And they're like, oh, well, he's not a priest anymore, and we put him up. He should be in freaking prison.
Yeah.
Like, he should be in prison for that crime. That
Worse.
being fired from your job is not good enough for me. And the same thing with the FBI, the CIA. Like, these people, they should be fired, of course. I mean, they should be in jail for what they've done. They've broken their oath with the people. I mean, times 1,000, was what they've done. And what they've done to the president of this country. And you know what's amazing? And I say this every so often, if you really think about how amazing it is that our president, what he's been through, all the stuff he's been through, the fake Russian collusion, the Ukraine. I mean, they tried to impeach him because they didn't like a phone call. A phone call was nothing wrong with it, and they tried to do it. The CIA, the FBI, the DOJ, the IRS, all weaponized against him. Think about that. All weaponized, and he's still here.
And
then he gets COVID, and he's still here.
And having to eat shit because of COVID. He's had to take in all the problems with COVID, and all his fault. You know what I mean?
Everything's his fault.
Even though in the beginning he was like, "Let's close it down," and they were like, they called him everything under the sun. Mm-hmm. But now they just pretend like that didn't
Racist,
happen.
xenophobe for cutting off flights.
Yeah.
Before we get too far, I want to take up something that you said about the Pope, because he did actually make news this week.
Yes.
By coming out publicly and denouncing the evils of capitalism and how the world is finally reaping what it has sowed from capitalism.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, what you were saying about the priest and the child molesting thing is, I think that if I were the Pope, if I were Pope Tom, I think the last thing on my mind right now would be whether capitalism is working or not, and whether my priests are molesting kids. That would be my number one priority, first and foremost. And until that is eradicated from my religion that I am the leader of, I'm going to allow politics to remain in a political realm, and I will deal with theology. Because right now, and that happens to not just in Catholicism, but everywhere else. We see people, they have bigger problems, and they're addressing things they have nothing to do with.
And I'm a Catholic saying this, so I can say it. Can I use that? Am I allowed to use that? It's like he's talking about taking, borders down, basically being an open society across the board, right? Of course, that's what the New World Order wants,
That's
right?
what I was going to say. He's part of. They're all part
guess
of
what?
it. Like,
Guess what, Pope? Take down the Vatican walls then.
Yeah.
Take them down. See what happens. Good luck keeping all those billions of dollars of artwork and everything else you got in your basement, and God knows what else down there. This is laughable to me, and it's very. I didn't go to church today. Like, I prayed, but I didn't go to church because I was so frustrated with what I read from him that I don't think I'd be able to keep my mouth shut.
That really bothered me.
Yeah, I was irate about it, and it's a huge turnoff for me with the Catholic religion, and right now, with what's been done and what's been said, because to say what he said is so illogical and irrational for a world perspective. That, like, the sovereignty of a nation has nothing to do with anything he's talking about.
It's silly and it's naive as well, because he's talking about pie in the sky stuff, take down borders. We all need to be a one-man
giant utopia.
brotherhood and all this kind of stuff. And listen, since the beginning of mankind, it hasn't worked that way. It's not going to work that way. We need to find a way to make it work within the boundaries of reality.
Yeah. If
you can't apply anything to the parameters of reality, then it just won't work.
I agree. That's why I was so frustrated, because I know how illogical it is to it's great to talk about. It sounds good, and you sound nice. You sound like a nice person. Let's take care of the entire population of the planet Earth. But it's not feasible. It's not sustainable, and it can't happen. And for a country to be sovereign is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Here's the thing, right? And I've had this conversation probably 4 times in the last 2 days, and it's amongst the African American community, right? And what I've concluded, and what I usually tell people is, how do I say this? First of all, are we comparing America to perfection? Or are we comparing America to the rest of the world? Let's start there, You know what I mean? Because if we're comparing it to the rest of the world, you know, we're great.
Yeah.
But if you're comparing it to perfection, then we're gonna fall short every time. You know what I mean? So, you know, and I think if we start in that space with people, then it kind of, if they're reasonable, they're because like you say, it's pie in the sky. You know, but when we're talking about the Catholic Church, so to speak, the Catholic Church across the nation, they were holding memorials to George Floyd.
Yeah.
They're in on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just is what it is. That's why he will say that. That's why, I mean, but we people know that's always been tied in. The Catholic Church has really never been separate from
politics.
politics.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. It's just in your face now.
Blatant.
Yeah, it's just blatantly in your face now. It's very hard for me to swallow with what the Pope's been saying the last couple of years, not just now. You know, that was what he said 30 days out from an election.
And what bothers me is that he does have that influential platform.
Oh yeah.
And so anybody who's in a position like that needs to take extra care what they say, knowing that so many people are going to be influenced by his words, that if you say something that's so silly that, like I said, cannot fit within the parameters of reality, you're not doing them any good. You're not serving your constituents.
It's for the Pope to come out and basically say we should all be socialist. And again, I ask, name one socialist country that has done well.
Well, again,
they all fail eventually.
He doesn't have a fundamental understanding of history. He doesn't have a fundamental understanding of politics. And let me tell you how kind of dumb he is. I mean, I don't want to be mean, but let me tell you how dumb he is, because this is a simple concept. So this week, again, I'm teaching what was going on in the world in the 1920s and 30s. I had to explain to them about what communism is. And so the best way I can do it is I can give them an example. Okay, so I tell them ultimately Karl Marx's mistake and failure when he developed the philosophy of Marxism or communism is that it didn't fit within the parameters of nature and reality. He didn't take into account human nature. Yeah. So I said, here's
our founding fathers did a remarkable job.
Yes, they did. So I said, here's the example. So I said, everybody in this classroom, we are all a communist classroom now. Okay, and I am your leader. Okay, so I make the decisions. So everybody in this classroom is now going to wear a red shirt. Everybody, a red T-shirt. Now we don't have to worry about who bought their shirt at Nordstrom's or who had to buy the shirt at Walmart. Now it doesn't matter because everybody's wearing red T-shirts. Yeah. And I said, well, except for over here, homegirl, she wants to wear a green T-shirt, and this guy over in the corner, he wants to wear a blue T-shirt because they don't want to wear red T-shirts. See, that's human nature. Some people want to be individuals. They want to be different. They want to do something else. So, as a communist leader dictating over a communist class, if that kid wants to wear a blue shirt and she wants to wear a green shirt, what do I have to do to make them comply? And every single one of those kids knew it just like that. They said, you have to use force. Mm-hmm. Every one of those kids said, you have to use force. That's how easy it is to grasp communism, to grasp socialism, to grasp any type of totalitarian regime. That's how dumb the Pope is, because when he suggests something like that, he doesn't take that kind of stuff into account. And I got 13-year-olds that right off the bat know, well, the only way you can make us all wear a red shirt is if you use force. It's that simple. And a man in his position can't figure that out. That's scary.
Well, he can, though. He knows. He knows. You know, and it's, and the beauty, see, here's the thing, in capitalism, there will be haves and have-nots. There just will be.
Just like the book.
The beautiful part of it in America is you get to choose your side. Yep. Absolutely. See, that's the beautiful part of it. Even if you're born with less, you might have to work a little harder, but you at least have the opportunity to choose your side. And that's the part that people have to embrace. Instead of saying, I have less, I can't, or he's ahead of me, just embrace the opportunity. And but that's the essence of America.
And one of the failures of America is that we've been limiting that opportunity, because every time that you increase the size of government, every time you increase the size of government, it crawls a little bit farther into people's personal lives, into your everyday lives. you lose a little bit of liberty, and you lose that opportunity to change your position or decide what side you're on. Like you said.
That's what's amazing is Italy is not exactly a prime example of capitalism and a free market. I mean, look at that. I mean, if you want to look at where the Vatican and everything is in Rome and all this, think about Italy and the fascism that has happened here. You think he'd freaking see it for what it is firsthand about how that does not work well, and for the life of me, I don't understand. Now I know he's not Italian, but being there, he should have an understanding of the history of the country
Where
he's
you're
living
at,
in. That he should understand what the Vatican has been through.
But maybe Chris is right. He probably does know all this stuff. He's just
Chris is 100% right.
He's on the other team. That's all.
Yeah, he's on team NWO, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
They are a group of extremely powerful people, financially. I mean, not powerful because Tom out deadlift them any day. So take that, Pope. But these trillionaires basically. A lot of these people are damn near. I mean, if you take into account their entire wealth, they're in the trillions, I'm sure. But some of them. But these are the people that are calling the shots around the world. And until people wake up and see what's going on, Trump has spoken on this. Until people wake up and see what Trump's if when it all, and it will one of these days. I really believe one day it's going to come out, and we'll be on the right side of history. But when they look back and see what happened to Trump, what he was up against, and what he did to save this country, the people are going to be blown away when they really look at it from that perspective.
The only way that happens is if he wins, because like Napoleon said, the winners write history.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it. That's it.
But here's the problem with Trump. Let's say he wins in a massive downslide or a landslide. Okay, guess what? We got 4 years of Trump. That's
exactly.
it. He's gone.
Yeah.
The next guy's in, and who knows what we're going to get? And guess who's there for 40 years? All them congressmen.
Yeah.
Those are the problem.
President Xi.
It's not the president.
Yeah.
Bush was limited in what he could do.
It's
Obama
the
was
deep
limited in
state.
what he could do. Trump will be limited in what he can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's the congressmen that
right.
have the
We
power.
need
when you're there
term limits.
Yes.
Well, that is the deep state. It's all the people whose jobs outlast the
The
president.
bureaucrats, the
The
chief of
bureaucrats,
staffs,
yes.
all those
Yes.
people, they all rotate.
The alphabet gang you were naming earlier. And that's what the deep state is. It's not a secret. You know what I mean? And then you have these shadow governments like the NWO.
But let me ask you this, Chris. Okay, so when you have somebody that's in position like Trump is, where, he's only going to be there for 4 or 8 years, he can make a difference. I mean, there is a dent that somebody in that position can make as far as restructuring those agencies, because it is all under the executive branch. So technically, he does have that power. You just mentioned the head of the CIA, and then we were talking about the FBI. Why hasn't he changed out those leaders? And I know that.
Well, he did, but he put more deep staters
That's the
in.
thing. Do you think it's because the only pool he has to pick from is a dirty pool?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think also here's what I'm hoping. Part of me believes it, and part of it I'm hoping, Tom, honestly, is that he knew I can only make so many moves because I have to get reelected, and I'm hoping that when he gets reelected, it's just all no holds barred. I'm pulling out every curtain I can possibly pull down. You know what I mean? And just
Declassification.
and I'll just leave it. I'll just leave a shipwreck before I go.
Because the
You know what I mean?
president
I'm
can
hoping.
declass. Haspel, you're waiting on Haspel to declass. Richard Grinnell was on. I was listening to him earlier on Maria Bartiromo earlier this morning.
Yeah.
And I love Richard Grinnell. You guys, I talk about him all the time because he's a beast. He's doing the right thing, and he said, Gina Haspel obviously can declass.
Bartiromo did her whole show on this morning too.
Yes, that's the one I was speaking on. And Congressman Nunes as well, who's killing it. And they call him a conspiracist,
He's the fellow that asked the CIA for that, and they stonewalled him.
And but Trump can, as the chief executive, can be like, we're declassing this, and it's going to get declassed. He can override her. Now, why he hasn't? Maybe there's a plan behind why he hasn't, but he can do that. But maybe he's waiting until after the election to do all this stuff. I wish he would do it right now, because I think it's vital information the American people deserve to know.
But isn't that kind of what the American people voted for him to do anyway? Like what you were
Exactly.
saying, like pulling all the curtains down. That's what That's what everybody
Yes.
that voted for Trump wanted in the first term.
Think about the people you
we
know.
wanted him to pull curtains down day one. Just start pulling them down. We'll figure it out in 4 years. After
Democrats, Independents, Republicans. One thing across the board that we can usually, the one thing we can all agree on is people are sick of the corruption.
Are they?
A lot of people are. Now you got your crazy lefties that we know a few of
There's
them.
at least half the
But there-
country is.
There's a lot of people though that like
Democrat.
they're
I don't
like
think they even
yeah, but I think
believe
half
it.
the country likes the government structure. They believe
The
in the
power.
government. They believe that the government can make your life better.
Yeah.
They believe that. Now,
I'm
do they have
laughing
a
because-
fundamental misunderstanding of history? Of course
yes,
they do.
Yes.
But at least half of the country literally believes that some, maybe not all of government, but
Yeah.
that some aspect of government touches their life in a positive way, and they don't want to lose it.
I always ask him name one government, not agency. What do you call it? Agency. Name one government program that has worked well. Because the VA was garbage until Trump kind of cleaned it up. It's a little better now. Medicare, Medicaid is a disaster. Social Security is a disaster. I can't think of one. And when I ask people this, nobody can name it.
Here's the
But they
problem
want
is-
big government.
Is those elderly people that are living off of their Social Security or their Medicaid?
They want
If
to,
they
and I want them to
lose it-
have
If
it.
they lose it, they're in
over.
trouble, and they
Yeah.
cannot lose it. So they will always vote for the man that says, "I will keep it or I will make it better."
We
Yeah.
need to make
Government
changes.
never goes the
Yeah.
other way.
Yeah,
it
no.
either goes keep it or I'll make it
Right.
better.
And I'm not denying that the people, like you said, there's people that need help. Obviously people can't. They're old. They can't. So I just feel there's a better way to fund this program and to keep it funded because that well has run dry.
Oh, yeah.
But we need to find another way, and you can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expect a different result because we know the money's gone for the future. So we need to find a different way to fund it. And all I ever hear is from the Democrats is they want bigger government. And I'm like, you don't understand. When government gets out of the way is when this country prospers. And because that's when the people themselves figure it out. The businesses work together. The nonprofits work together. There's ways of fighting a lot of these challenges we have via in the private.
But yes, you're right, and I agree wholeheartedly. But from having lived in these communities when I was younger, and then I get my hair cut in those communities, so I'm still in touch with the people there. Like a lot of the people, they just don't know how. So when you say that, you're right, and I agree 1,000%.
Mm-hmm.
But they're gonna vote that way that Tom is talking about is because if they don't get the help, they don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it just is what it is, and that's just
So they're relying on people to
and
figure
that's
it
the
out.
have-nots. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they need someone to say, well, I'm kind of 50-50 on it because I'm wondering. Necessity is the mother of invention. So I'm almost double speaking right now.
Yeah.
Because
I know what you
maybe
mean.
if you pull it back,
I know what you
maybe
mean.
they'll just
It
have to figure
forces
it out.
people to figure it out,
You
yeah.
have to figure it out. You know what I mean? So yeah.
And
maybe
that's a big thing is that's what capitalism does. One of the best things that capitalism does is it makes you figure it out.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that we don't provide help for people who haven't figured it out yet or who just have bad luck or whatever else. Everybody needs help. But we have things in place, those safety
Here's the
markers,
thing,
whatever you want to call it, in
need
place.
government safety nets. There's a thing called charity. Charity worked very, very,
Philanthropy-
very well
Philanthropy works,
before the 1900s. Before the 1900s,
That's true. You're
taking
exactly
care
right.
of people that are. And then if you're talking about old people, well, guess what? You have kids, you have grandkids. It's
Yeah.
time for families to start taking care of families.
Yeah.
Let's keep that in mind too.
That's been a lost cause across the board,
Yeah.
but especially
In all
the
communities,
black, in the
too.
black community in
Yeah.
particular. I think I see in the Hispanic community there's a little more, in general, I'd say more of a tight knit, I guess,
Sure.
family wise. But in the white community, we're in general like it's very independent. like you're taught to like go on your own, go to college. And go live on your own. You're not going to live with mom and dad. You know what I mean? Not that it doesn't happen, or we don't. It's not like, but it's looked down upon. Like you're living with your mom and dad. You know
Well,
what I mean?
I'm not saying that we all have to live together.
But
in,
the
like,
communities,
communes.
well, yeah,
That's me.
but the community,
That's me.
they're different. You know what I'm saying? So, but in general, I agree with you 100%. Like we need to like welfare, it's slavery 2.0, and that was from my buddy Marcus. You guys know Marcus, but he called it slavery 2.0, and it's exactly what it is. He goes, he said it's holding my people back.
It is.
And I go, I see what you're saying. I get where you're coming from, and I believe it is too. And when you have something to just rely on, to fall back on, like a sugar daddy, America's a giant sugar daddy. We're just going to keep collecting money. I'll pay my bills, and I really won't do anything. But when you put somebody, you give them an opportunity, give them a job. One, they're happier. I mean, they're making more money. They're doing better. They have better opportunity. It's just a different mindset too, as far as your well-being. Having a job and working. So I don't know. It's so many issues to touch on with just that subject alone.
Well, it involves economics. It involves social issues, and it involves politics. I mean, everything is wrapped into something like that.
Yeah.
When you're talking about government agencies and welfare and the role that it plays in our individual lives.
I think we need to do the best we can to incentivize people to not be on welfare by setting maybe end dates. We'll help you for this long. After this end date, if you're not fulfilling certain parameters, like we'll give you opportunities to learn a language or some type of skill set that we'll even cover. I'd rather pay for somebody to learn how to be a welder or something and give them the opportunity to have a good paying job instead of just giving them welfare for the next 2 decades. You know what I mean? And in a way, forcing them to pick something and go with it, but we're not going to keep paying for you on welfare. We want you to be independent as much as possible.
Well, here's the thing about all these good ideas is that in the long run, they're good ideas. They'll work out. But in the short run, there's going to be pain.
There's some pain.
And
there's some pain.
Again, let's go back to, but you have politicians. And temporary pain doesn't get them reelected.
And that's right.
Okay? Constant morphine drip gets them elected. Okay? You give somebody immediate pain, even though you tell them, it's going to be better in the long run. You give them immediate pain, they will vote for somebody that will stop that.
So it's
pain.
like just like in the fitness world. Somebody comes into the gym. Tim, you've all seen this. Bro, how can I be like 240 pounds and like 8% body fat? I go, 30 years in a gym, and they look at me like I'm being a smart dude. I had a dude. I won't say his name. He comes to me, wants to be a pro. And he's a big kid, right? And I'm like, well, you got a good base. You're big. You got a lot of muscle. And I was like, well, don't put all your eggs in one basket. What do you do for? I asked him, what do you do for your career? Like, what do you want to do? I want to be a pro. And I was like, you know how you're going to be.
If I had a dime for every person that said that to me.
you know how many people I've had over the. So I told him, I go, listen, best advice I could ever give you, and this is just from being in the gym forever, is find a career, make money, do well financially, continue working out and doing your thing and doing the best you can, but get yourself stable financially in career. Then pursue it. I go, this whole time you could keep growing and getting bigger and whatever, whatever your goals are at the time. But unless you have money, you're not going to make any money being a pro. And I told him, you don't make money being a pro. And then, you know what he said? What about Big Ramy? He brought up Big Ramy. Yeah. And I started laughing. I was like, you know what? He's one of the few exceptions out there that has made money. I know him personally. And I saw his GAT contract when it happened, literally when it happened in a hotel room with Dennis James. I saw the GAT. I know what he got, and deservedly, because he's one of the biggest, best guys in the world. Mm-hmm. I go, but you're talking about one out of how many billions of people live on planet Earth. Yeah. You're not. I'm sorry, but I told him, I was sorry, but you're not Big Ramy. Mm-hmm. If you saw Big Ramy at your age, you're not Big Ramy. I'm not Big Ramy. Mm-hmm. I'm not even close.
Josh, I haven't lost a bodybuilding contest since 2005, and I have a better chance of landing on Mars than becoming a pro bodybuilder.
And being successful.
Right? That is
and being successful.
Making it
and then making money.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm well in the red. I am well in the red in my bodybuilding career.
Like you win a pro show. Cool, you got a trophy? And you paid for your way there? You lost money.
I'm well in the red.
Or you win $1,000. You lost money. Your airline and flight costs $1,000 and your car rental. You literally lost money doing what you do. But that's what I was trying to tell him. Bodybuilding is a hobby. Mm-hmm. And no matter how serious you take it, like, you're probably going to lose money in it. You do it because you love it. not for any other reason. And if you're doing it because you think you're going to be this famous bodybuilder, you might be. Let's say you turn pro and you become famous, you're still not making any damn money because I know a lot of famous pros and people. Oh, you know him, and I'm like, they're struggling.
Usually, what happens when you get your pro card is it's like mandatory retirement because you just can't compete with the real
Unless
pros
you're top
that are
5
out
in the
there.
world.
You're done. You're done. You're never going to compete again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys who turn pro, and then that's the end of their bodybuilding career. It's almost better to stay amateur. At least you can compete. And
You stay
have
more.
some
You stay
fun.
relevant in magazines at least, right? That way. Otherwise, you get lost
Once
amongst
you become
the
a
greats.
pro and you
Yeah.
can't stand up against those 275 pounders, you might as well just pack it in.
Yeah,
Go find
you get lost amongst
find
greatness.
a gym to be the pro celebrity personal trainer of the gym.
yeah.
Big fish, small pond.
Yeah, always be the big fish in a
Yeah,
small pond,
yeah.
and that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Well,
But this kid left the gym and never came back. So
You know, John,
I see him on Instagram. I'm like, hey, he didn't want to hear the truth. I'm not trying to I'm not going to sit here and lie to you about what it is. So
but that's a greater ill of society
That's what I was
that these kids have been taught.
yes,
That this is the only way that you can make it is if you become a pro bodybuilder and get exposure, if you become a rock star or you become a movie star or you're a rapper. That's the only way you can really make it in America is if you become a celebrity.
yeah,
And instead, we should have been telling them that, yeah, if you get a factory job making $25 an hour, $30 an hour, you're going to be doing okay. You can raise a family. You can raise a family. I know it's not a sexy job,
yeah.
but you can raise a family and you can have a stable, comfortable life.
And you can still work on your hobby. It's what I keep telling people. You
Yeah,
can,
really.
if you were disciplined. Ronnie Coleman was a cop for 20 years in Arlington, Texas, and he was Mr. Olympia.
He remained on the job.
Yeah, and he continued to work as a cop. He never quit. He's in a squad car. You guys have all seen it, eating
With the
chicken
cooler.
and rice. Good old chicken. and yeah, with this cooler. And this guy, because he loved being a bodybuilder. Ronnie made money. Let's not. He won money at the Olympia. He was winning hundreds of thousands of dollars. But he's one person in the whole world. But he understood the concept of having a career because you could get hurt. We know what happened. But let's say if that happened after his first Olympia, then what? What would he have? Well, he'd still be a
Keep in
cop.
mind, he didn't win his first Olympia
True.
until he was in his mid-30s.
So it was 15th, 16th place. But but you're talking about somebody who knew the value of having a career. Not because as an athlete you get hurt any minute and you can be done. And then what? What do you have to fall back on? And he was a cop. That's Phil Heath has been a champion for a long time. And Phil, has invested his money in other things. You know what I mean? That are when he's outside the sport. Dennis James invests his money in other things outside the sport. Some of these guys get into promoting shows and doing stuff. You know what I mean? They can do very well with those. So. The Rock got into IFBB as much as I dislike him right now, but as far as his political views, but he got into promoting shows and stuff. He's an entrepreneur, but he's voting for Biden. Imagine that.
Well, I think it comes down to the greater ills of society, like you were saying. And if you look at society as a whole, okay, when you're talking about that group of young men who are kind of in that weird space, that we call, this teenagers wasn't a real term until after World War II. You know what I mean? Before World War II, take that back. Let me rewind that. On the beaches of Normandy, the average age of the soldier was 22. That includes officers, everybody. Some of those guys were 16, 17. Before World War II, you were at home, you were an apprentice, you learned how to how to become independent, and then you went and got your own family. There was no teenager. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a new thing. That's only come along in the last 80 years or so.
Keep in mind, 8th grade was usually the tops
That's
of your
right.
educational.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. And then if you talk about go back further in the warrior cultures, Spartans and cultures like that, at 12 you were left out in the wilderness. And if you made it back, you were an adult. And if you didn't, well, you know what I mean?
You never got to be an adult.
You never got to, exactly. So
Watch
this-
the Patriot.
Exactly.
Right?
So this thing, teenager, is new to human society. Just period. You know what
Chris,
I mean?
don't you think the teenager is now growing into the 20s and the
Yes.
mid-20s? It just
Yes.
keeps expanding.
Finding
this
yourself.
period.
Finding yourself. That whole thing. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. So that's
That's exactly what's happening.
all that stuff. All that stuff boils down to removing fathers from homes. I'll say it over and over. If you go back to the 60s,
can't
if you go back to
disagree.
the 60s, in the white community, only 4% of homes did not have fathers. Now it's 30%.
30%.
Yeah. Blacks went from 23 to 77. Okay.
They flipped.
Yeah.
Well,
literally
30% is a devastating number.
Yes.
Can you imagine 75%?
Yeah, yes.
I mean, that's
3 out
you
of
can't
4.
operate a society on that.
No, you can't.
30% is devastating.
Well, when blacks were at 23, it was seen as devastating. In the 60s, they were like, "This is an incredibly high number." So now it's 77.
And then you got BLM supporting.
Yeah.
the
Okay.
breakup
So
of the nuclear
exactly.
family.
So what I'm saying, and they removed that from their website, by
Yeah,
the
they
way.
did. They got called out. That's why.
By the way, anybody on here right now, if you type in Antifa.com on your phone, watch what pops up. I'm not even going to tell you. Just do it on your own. But so when you remove the fathers from the home, which the Great Society Act, welfare, where they were literally knocking on doors of the underprivileged whites and blacks, saying, if there's not a man here, we'll give you free money. Okay, so that gave the incentive, like you said, the morphine drip, to not have a man in the home, and then it went from
Feminism,
feminism
went times 100.
That's right. It said you had the generation that said, I don't need a man. The next generation said, I don't want a man, and now we have a generation that says, I don't want to be a man. You understand?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This has been the.
You know I'm going to steal that.
Oh, you can have it.
That is good.
It's just a de-escalation or an escalation, however you want to look at it. So it's that.
I keep
great
thinking of positive K.
Yeah.
I want a man.
Yeah,
But your man
I
ain't
got
me.
him.
I got him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're looking at that stuff, and you're saying Confucius said you can tell the morality of a society by its music.
Uh-huh.
And you think about in those times, okay, the number one song was "My Girl." It was a song about familial love. I want to woo her. I want to make her my wife. I want to have a family. And now it's WAP.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Think about that. You know, and Confucius said
And
that
it's-
thousands of years
and
ago.
think about
Chris,
it's
I
been
think
like
about
that.
that all the time because I have a 14 and a
That's right.
15-year-old daughter
That's right.
who get to hear the number one song, and I'm
Yes.
sure they've heard it 1,000 times by now.
Yeah.
That message being sent,
Cringy.
it bothers me,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Yes.
No,
To
you
say
think,
the
hey,
least.
when I think back, though, you think probably since, let's say, the early 80s, musically, music has always been on the fringe, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But the fringe was like the Beatles, maybe speaking out like, oh, we're more popular than Jesus. Or, you know, like they'll say something to get a bunch of headlines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether they believe it or not, it's irrelevant. But that was Madonna started getting provocative, right? Everybody, you know, remembers her and her provocative lyrics. But then you had like Too Short, you know, you had people coming out saying just crazy stuff from a sexual standpoint, you know, and throughout. And those are just people that I think of because I remember growing up and I listen to, you know, when you're a young kid, you listen to pop music, you know what I mean? I was Michael Jackson and God, who I mean, I used to listen to Def Leppard. I love Def Leppard, you know, and stuff like that. But then it transitioned into, oh, here's Too Short with those lyrics, you know, and NWA with their lyrics, and Public Enemy was a little more political, but not dirty, but politically throwing stuff out there, you know, from a Black Power standpoint, you know, and very political. And a lot of stuff made sense, though, to be honest with you, you know. But when you look at it now, especially when you look back, you know, the lyrics and stuff in the music has the reason why they rap about this stuff or sing about this stuff is because it sells records. R. Kelly sells records. R. Kelly doesn't really cuss a lot in a lot of his music, but he talks about a lot of sexual stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sells records, and that's
Here's
why
the
they
thing,
continue
even
to do
when
it.
you have like groups like NWA or Pearl Jam, they had highly their messages were about social issues, a lot of it,
Yeah.
and that's okay because that is creating critical thought in people that are listening to it. With the music today of what we're listening to, there's no critical thought being stemmed by any of it.
No.
It's nothing that has anything.
It's
not even
just
close
sheer
to
what they
an
call
NWA
entertainment. You know what I mean? It's sheer just.
or Rage Against the Machine or something like
Yeah.
that.
I love them.
Me too.
You know, now it's just silliness. It's just silliness, and like you said, it's just saying the most ridiculous stuff to make a buck.
It's society. I think it was. I forget who said it, but you know, society flows downstream from culture. You know what I mean? Like culture is reflective upon what is being put out. You know what I mean? And vice versa in a way, because Hollywood's the same way. I mean, you think of movies now compared to what they were, you know, back in the golden era, what I call the golden era. You know what I mean? If you go to just the black and white movies, you know, that far back, and you compare the content of the movies to what they are now, they're not even. It's not even in the same realm. You know,
Operation Mockingbird.
yeah,
Well, again,
it's never stopped. We
again,
all
if
know
you-
this.
If you look at the films that come out now, it's just silliness, and all three of us could write a Hollywood blockbuster hit now. You have the female superhero who's able to beat up 240-pound men dressed in black. Everybody shoots machine guns at everybody, but the superhero never gets hit. A lot of car explosions. Superhero's down for a second, but then she comes back, and in the end, the evil male is defeated by the female superhero. That's every blockbuster now.
The female lesbian, Asian,
every
black,
blockbuster
mix,
now.
female, transgender.
And
like they
it's
try to touch on
absolute
every
silliness,
category.
but it's absolute silliness now.
No, that's the thing is, and I'm so sick of you guys. I've talked about this before. I'm so sick of the categorizing of everybody in America. That's to me.
Yeah.
That's to me is one of the biggest problems in this country is the media and marketing categorizing everybody in this country, and it causes division and separation. And instead of like, I had a thing, and I put it like, even within the Trump administration, blacks for Trump, women for Trump, gays for Trump.
Yep.
Asian Island Pacificers for Trump, Filipinos for Trump, literally. And I'm like, stop with the categorizing. Why don't you just say Americans for Trump? We are all Americans. Let's cut down the.
This is the
division.
ultimate failure of education, our education system, because we have weakened our population so much that nobody is comfortable with their individuality anymore. Nobody is comfortable with just who they are. So now they have to glom on.
They want to be part
an
of something.
Identity group, so they can be something. So they can say, "This is what I am." Oh, thank God, this is what I am.
Yeah.
Our education system doesn't teach us to say, "Hey, you can be whatever you want, and you may be several identities. You may be no identities,
Yeah.
but you can be an individual." We don't
Yeah.
teach that anymore. Now we
Yeah.
teach, okay, you have to be one of these. so you
Groupthink.
better start
Everything's
picking.
groupthink, right?
And that makes weak people.
You know
Weak
the-
people have to join groups.
The similarities, and I've said this because, I mean, you would understand. You both would understand. The similarities between the fitness world and politics are remarkable because people are people, regardless of what you're talking about. The groupthink. Think about this: the groupthink in the fitness world. Team so and so, team this, team that, coach this, coach that. You're like, that guy doesn't know anything. But you know, but you see this like coach this, coach that, team this, and they all want to be like their own separate group entity. You know what I mean? Instead of just being like, hey, I'm just a bodybuilder, man. Yeah, this guy helps me out. You know what I mean? Because back in the day, that's how it was. Like you had a guy in the gym.
Apprentice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thing,
yeah. You had a
apprentice.
guy in the gym. Like
you had your gym buddy.
you had
taught him what you know.
Yes,
and then-
yeah. I read this in Muscle Media 2000, you know. But, you know, you had your Rusty Jeffers at every gym. You know, your old school dudes that have been there and done that.
Wear boots.
And then they wore construction boots. Yeah, bro. They
heavy shit.
they just get nasty. But you know, you had that guy in every gym, and that's the young guy. That's who you went to for help. That's who you went to learn. And then you pass it on. You might pass it on to your friend or your training partner or whatever. But it was like this trickle down effect from the top of knowledge. You know, of the people that have been there, done it. Now you got guys 20 years old acting like they're coaches and experts, and you're looking at them like you don't know what the hell you're talking about. But the same thing in the political world, man. The same people, as far as their thought process is applicable to anything, and it happens in the political world. You know, you see it all the time. Human nature doesn't change no matter what you're talking about.
Well, I'm going to give you a little pushback on the Chicanos for Trump and Latinos for Trump, blacks for Trump. And I'm going to tell you why. Because in those communities, he's the first person to where the media has made him so polarizing to where people were uncomfortable with speaking up and saying, hey, I'm black and I like what Trump's doing.
Yeah, and I'm
You
a
see what I'm saying?
conservative. Yeah,
Yeah, you
I
see what I'm
get
saying?
that.
So
Totally.
what happened was it took them to see other people to say, it is okay.
I'm not alone.
Yeah, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, man, in the black community, it became extremely, and it still is, extremely polarizing to say that you vote or you support Donald Trump's policies. And because that's where I always separate
Separate it.
with
Always
everyone.
separate it.
I say, listen, I support his policies. And it's particularly with women, it becomes back, well, he's this, and it's all personality traits every time. You know what I mean? So by those people, by those different groups coming out saying, hey man, there's some Latin people over here that are cool with Trump, and it made those people say, okay, good. You know what I mean? Because before they felt like they didn't have a voice.
That's true.
They didn't have a voice.
Exactly
So
right.
so with it, and I think it's also helped galvanize more people into it, because the people that were kind of like, well, should I listen?
Yeah.
But I can't, because everybody's telling me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now
I
you
totally
you see what I'm saying?
I totally get
Well,
why
that,
they're
and they
doing
see
it.
the way that like black conservatives are treated. I mean, it is absolutely
Candace
horrible.
Owens gets
Horrible
thrashed.
how they are treated. I cannot believe how terrible they're treated, and that nobody has said anything about that.
Yeah, and it's because a lot of that too is because, well, you have like this. You're right, but then there's this subculture of black conservatives like myself, like a King Face, rest in peace.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, like a new, because before black conservatives all had to be like Larry Elder.
Yeah,
They had to look apart.
Brandon Tatum.
They had to look apart.
Yeah.
Brandon Tatum's a new.
Yeah.
He's a new
I'll get Brandon on here with us one of these days,
like
too.
he had to look. They had to look apart. They had
I hear
shave
that.
the mustache. You know, you had to be like with the suit on.
Now
had
you
to-
got a dude like Cashley Kelly who looks like he's from the hood.
Yeah, well,
He's from the hood, but he understands what
well,
conservatism
that's what I'm
is.
saying. Now there's this new generation, this new bloodline that's. Candace always grew up in the projects, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this new bloodline that's coming in, and they're like, "Nah, I'm not here to be bullied, bro." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and so that because I see what you're talking about, but they don't do that to me. But I see them do it to other people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But
Yes.
they won't do that to me. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Just like BLM will walk up to an old person's table, but they're not doing that shit to y'all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're gonna walk up to your table, take something
The
off
key
of it.
takeaway: join a gym and get real big and strong.
Yeah.
No one's gonna mess with you.
Right. So that new bloodline coming in has that's who you're seeing leading those groups. The Latinos for Trump, the blacks for Trump. It's not the old school conservatives. You know what I mean? They're learning from them.
Yeah.
But it's that group.
That's
I mean,
a great point.
You know,
It is,
like
yeah.
King Face walking around with conservative thug on. You know, that resonated. It made it cool.
Well, I think that's one of the things that, as far as Mona, my girlfriend, that really shocked her, because she never knew that existed, because I guess she'd never seen a black conservative. But when she finally saw a black conservative, and then saw how terribly they were treated, and then when she listened to what they have to say, and then she was like, well, I mean, that's not real crazy talk. You know, they're not saying off the wall stuff. She was appalled. And it was nice to kind of see that enlightenment, because she was appalled by the way that those black conservatives have
I
been
always
treated.
challenge
Appalled.
everybody, no matter where
That's where it
you're
starts.
from, is to stand up and be a leader. And what leaders do is they speak their mind in a fair way, no matter what or where they're at. You know what I mean? They're gonna go, this is what I believe, and I understand that it can be in a very almost a dangerous situation sometimes, but sometimes it takes somebody to stand up, and that's what these people have done. King Face, these people have done. They stood up. They said, this is what I believe, this is who I am, and here's why I believe it, and here's why I believe it, the conservatism. And when these people do that, man, it's changed the landscape of America, I think, a lot more than what people think. And my prediction, I'll do a quick prediction, I think the black vote will be over 15%. It was at 8 last time. I think it'll be over 15%. I think it'll break any Republican record in the black vote ever. I think it could be potentially even higher. I've had a few of my friends tell me that they think it could be 22 plus. But I also think the Hispanic vote this time is going to be significantly higher for Trump. And I think it's going to be a damn landslide. Honestly, I
if
really
it's
believe
fair.
that, because think
If
about
it's fair.
Trump
I mean-
won the Electoral College with 8% of the black vote, and I think he's gonna get maybe even double that, and he's gonna get more of the Hispanic vote than he did last time. I think it's gonna be a damn landslide, but the only way they can do is cheat in the mail-in ballots.
Well, as of right now, in the first 2 million ballots that have been early voting, 55% of them have been registered Democrats. You know what I mean? It's only been 21%.
They're the mail-inners.
It's been 21% of registered Republicans, and then 24% of people.
Republicans
who
are going to
aren't.
vote in person.
They're going to go walk out.
The most of them are going to vote in person,
walk out.
and they're going to try to walk away with this election if we don't watch it.
To end it, by the way, I got a chance to do a Zoom call with Angela Stanton King this week.
Okay, yeah.
This week,
Yeah. Really?
yeah. She's a real person.
She's fantastic.
She's a real person. You know what I mean? The way she is on there on her social media
She's
is exactly who she is.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's an example
But
of
that's the kind of person we need.
that's
in office.
a person that's from the that's not typical,
Uh-huh.
conservative, not typical, historically black conservative that's saying, fuck you, I'm gonna do what I want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'll say she has the best pro-life argument I have ever heard anybody
too.
come up with.
Me too.
I never heard
She changed me.
anybody. I never heard anybody articulate it the way I did. Again, I'm pro-choice, but the way she put it, I was like,
She changed me.
man, am I wrong? It was good. It was airtight.
Me too.
The way that she articulates it.
Literally, I tell people that I say
was airtight.
I'm pro-choice, but I don't feel good about it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's because of her. It really is.
Yeah,
that.
I know exactly what you mean. I'm pro-life anyways, but like the way she put it together,
It's the best I've ever heard.
look it
anybody
up,
do.
guys. Just look up Angela Stanton King and just put pro-life or something that'll pull up. You'll be able to see what it is. But we will check you guys next week, and we'll be back same time, 7 p.m. And we got a lot to talk about all the way up through November 3rd.